Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the HLA podcast, episode 17. I'm your host, Clicks the Crouton, joined by the Solemn.
Yeah, no, that's me.
By the Ballum. Today we're talking about video game villains, and to a lesser note, villains in general. This is a pretty cool topic. It didn't come to mind for whatever reason when thinking about it before. Thinking about topics before. But like, what comes to mind, or who comes to mind when you think of video games villains? Like,
I mean, it's probably got to be like current ones of games that I've been playing. So like, the Ender Dragon.
okay. I don't see
No,
that's. I don't know if you can call the Ender Dragon a villain. Like,
oh, not really. I get
he's just sort of a guy doing his own thing.
Or her, because the egg.
Yeah. Just like doing his own thing, and you just go in there and fucking murk him or her, whoever, whatever.
Well, I mean, it drops an egg, so I'm assuming the Ender Dragon is a girl.
Yeah. Some dude dragging shitting out eggs. Who knows?
Dude, I hope not. Man, this really sums up 2019. So.
Oh my goodness! Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the stream, Seagull.
So I gotta say, like, things I really, or the ones that I really think about would be like, like I said, so more current ones. So I've been playing a lot of Fallout lately too. So I'm thinking about, I don't know, like Kellogg, or like what you consider the NCR, the Legion, Caesar's Legion. I'm thinking about those guys because I've been playing a lot of that game and those games.
Yeah, well, like, what makes them villains, though?
So it's really hit or miss. So you played Fallout 4. It's the only one you played.
Yeah, it's been a bit, though.
Yeah. Do you remember Kellogg at all?
It sounds familiar, but no.
So Kellogg was basically, for anyone that hasn't played Fallout 4, this game has been out since like 2015, so you've had your chance. Major spoilers ahead. But Kellogg basically is the one that came in. He's the mercenary that came in. He worked for the Institute. He took your son while you were involved. 111, or was it 111? 111. And
oh, he's the one that made a robot copy of him, right?
Yeah, there's like well, he didn't necessarily do it. He was just the mercenary contracted to.
Oh, yeah. No, I remember
because he was the only pure life form left after the wasteland had been like turned into the wasteland.
Yeah. No, I remember now. That completely
the only pre-war child left. The youngest one is the most pristine.
Yeah.
So Kellogg, I mean, you can consider him a villain all you want, but he really like. He was in it for the money, like working in the wasteland is kind of hard, but it really makes you wonder his age because when you kill him, he's half synth himself. This man was like when you're looting his body, you notice like all these like you find like a fake arm on him or like all these different things that are just keeping him alive. These like artificial parts and pieces, and your character will say
he's part cyborg. He
was hardly human at all. Yeah. So I don't know. It just a lot of it's just weird plot stuff when you get into it. But Kellogg, I guess you can call a villain. But
but it's like
you called them the villains because they're preserving the world underground, but they're not making it open to everyone. It's kind of just like
to the chosen few.
Yeah, to like the people that are in the Institute, and it turns out like the only people really in the Institute are mainly synths anyway. So it's like.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what are we preserving, my dude?
Okay, so in your mind, you think you view the villains or Kellogg and the Institute as villains?
I really don't know. Like, Kellogg's a mercenary. He's just about the money. So I don't really consider him in the grand scheme of things, no, he's not like a villain. He's just as much a villain to you as a regular raider would be.
Yeah.
Because they're still, like killing for whatever reason. I guess the Raiders are more insane than anything, but and then I
Oh
don't know
yeah,
if I
I
would consider
remember.
The Brotherhood of Steel are like assholes too. You can consider them villains if you want because
Oh
they
yeah, true.
eradicate literally everything that isn't human.
Yeah, no, the
It's
Conrad,
like Mr. Ethnic Cleansing.
yeah, random or not random. Cat put a fucking a link to it from the Fallout wiki. I remember killing this guy and then walking up to him and then putting a bullet between his eyes, like after he was dead. Because I remember being really into Fallout 4.
Do you remember Elder Maxon? I assume that you played through with the Brotherhood because who didn't? Because they power armor.
Um, I don't remember what like faction I played through it with.
I've played through for all the factions in Fallout, but
I don't know. I can't remember. Off the top of my head, I can't remember.
So Elder Maxon was in the Pridwen, which was that big ass, and
Yeah,
he
yeah.
was like the current leader or whatever. Well, if you played Fallout New Vegas, it takes place before Fallout 4. You can actually see Elder Maxon when he's like a child, or maybe it's not. I'm thinking Fallout 3, I guess. I think he's in the Citadel in Fallout 3, my bad. But anyway, he's like talking about all these things, like what the Brotherhood ingrains into these children's minds, like because you'll see I'm trying to think. In Fallout 4, I think you have this mission to like take these kids out on these different combat missions to watch you clear out places, and they'll be talking about these things like the adults do, and they're just like, yeah, kill that little bastard, like and it's just like a ghoul, and he's like, hey, I got a family here, like what the fuck. But Fallout is really one of those games that it really challenges your morals, like, do you think it's okay to put a bullet between this man's eyes, even though like he's a ghoul, so he can become feral at any moment, but it's at the same time like he's not for the time being, so should we,
Yeah.
And I've played through with all these different, like, putting my own morals aside. Like, that was my first playthrough of these games. Like, what do I think is right? What would I do in this situation? And then I played through all the factions to get an idea of their way of thinking. A lot of it's, like, fucked up ideals. Like,
yeah.
It's just, I don't know, that this series just, like, plays with your mind a lot. Especially,
I feel like that's
one
of the... I feel like that's one of the highlights of Fallout is the fact that, like, if you were to follow any of the factions' ideals to a T, they would seem more messed up than anything. But that's why you as a player character are able to interact with multiple factions and then integrate all of those factions' ideas into one thing, expelling the bad shit that you don't like and taking in the stuff that you do like resonate with. And you're able to make your own... I don't know how like far back you're able to make your own camps, but at least in Fallout 4, it's like you're able to make your own community. So
yeah, it's the first game to introduce the settlement system.
Yeah, like so, and guess in Fallout 4, it's like teased that like you could be your own faction, like you and the community you make.
There's a really cool way of doing that in Fallout New Vegas. Like they have so many endings to the game. In New Vegas, I don't think you played it. I don't know if Kat has. I know a few people that I've talked to have, but so basically, New Vegas was, filled with all these casinos, and there was all these families there, whatever, that owned the casinos. Hold on just a sec. I gotta check my phone.
Something come up?
Yeah, we're fine now. So what was it saying? So New Vegas was... So the Lucky 38 Casino in New Vegas is owned by Mr. House. And Mr. House, from before the war, was trying to have this platinum chip delivered. Well, there was like 7 different items. There was like throwaway items. Like one was a chess piece. One was a set of dice. A playing card. There were these random items, and one was a platinum poker chip. And he gave these to I think either 6 or 7 different couriers to deliver to um to deliver to him to be able to, do something with, but it's never really revealed in the first part of the game. You just knew that's what you had to do. So you get shot by this guy in the checkered coat named Benny. Truth is, game was rigged from the start. But so you get shot by him. You wake up in Good Springs. You don't have the platinum chip, but you do have your work order from the Mojave Express, which is the like the, I guess, the courier, the mail system, I guess, there. So like the Pony Express, basically. So, but without the fucking pony. You find out later once you make it to New Vegas, because that's where you end up finding out where Benny is at. He's at his casino, the Tops, because he's one of the chairmen, which is their own organization. And so you find out either from Benny or from Mr. House, because you get instructed to go see Mr. House first to find out that Benny has this platinum chip. It's supposed to help Mr. House do something. So it turned out in the end that the platinum chip is a data storage device. There's only 2 computers in the entire Mojave Wasteland that can read it. One in some bunker underneath a fortification hill, which is across the dam, across Hoover Dam, under Caesar's camp. So there's that one, and the Caesar and the Legion, they're their own faction. And then the other one was right there at the Lucky 38. There was 2 computers that could read it. So basically that thing beefed up Mr. House's robots, the Securitrons, to, keep the strip safe and shit from all the war going on around them between the NCR, the New California Republic, and Caesar's Legion fighting to control Hoover Dam for all the electricity that it brings. And
gotcha. Okay.
So once you get your hands on the platinum chip after killing Benny, which you have a ton of fucking different opportunities and options of killing this man. You can walk straight into the Tops casino and, you can shoot him in his fucking face. Just straight up, you can refuse to hand over your weapons at the front door and just shoot this man dead in his fucking eyes.
Ooh.
That's the option. But he's got bodyguards and shit like that. The Tops casino, basically the entire strip will turn hostile if you do that because you had no goddamn reason to kill him.
Yeah.
Or you can talk to him, try to negotiate something with him. He'll run off because he knows what he did to you and he knows you're looking for fucking revenge. So he ends up running off, getting captured by Caesar, trying to get into his bunker to have this platinum chip read it so he can control the Securitrons and whatnot for himself. And that was the whole falling out between Benny and Mr. House, was that Benny wanted to, take all the shit for himself and just basically have control of the entire strip.
Yeah.
And I know I'm getting really into plot details here.
No, you're good.
So
it defines so many fucking villains, though, if you think about it. So then you have, he gets captured by Caesar, and if you make it to Caesar's camp, either for Mr. House, pretending to pat Caesar on the back, but you really betray him or whether you're actually trying to play through for the Legion, you see Benny tied up, you can either just fucking shoot him in the face right there while he's tied up. You can, if you're a female, you can offer to sleep with him or something like that. Back at the casino, and he'll comment on that shit and stuff like that. They play in a lot of different details, the decisions you make early on impact you at the end of the game. That's what I love about the series too.
Yeah.
They remember that shit. Or you can choose, if you're loyal enough to Caesar, he'll let you choose Benny's punishment. You can duke it out with him in the arena that they have there for gladiatorial battles and stuff like that. You can have him nailed to a fucking cross.
Whoa.
Yes,
fuck.
crucifixion is a huge thing for them because you got to figure they're basically
the Romans. Yeah.
Romans. Yeah, so they were big on that. Trust me, they're no strangers to crucifixion.
Holy shit.
If you're helping the NCR out, you take a camp called Nelson, and you can actually get a bunch of guys off of crosses that just got strung. It's pretty wild.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah. And, no, there's a whole lot of just fucked up shit to that game. So if you think about it, Mr. House can be a villain. He kept the strip safe, but he's, the wealthiest man on the strip because he kept it safe.
Yeah.
He had these, there was 2 options for the platinum chip.
when he was trying to have it delivered in the beginning, it had data to like help him unlock the silos that he had these like defense missiles in that were supposed to intercept the warheads before they, hit Vegas. Only he said that a few of the nukes got through, and that's why Vegas is still almost pristine, but everything around it is a desolate fucking wasteland.
Oh, okay.
So there was that option, and then, once you get a hold of the platinum chip, you can go in to Mr. House's like secret chamber, take his fucking like preserved body out of the container that he's in, and just tell him, "Fuck you." You can, I'm in charge now. You can basically take over the entire, New Vegas Strip for yourself. You can let Benny do it. You can let fucking Caesar win. You can help them win. You can help the NCR take control. You can help Mr. House, keep control, and he'll like give you everything you want for the rest of your life. There's just so many possible endings, and so many like you'll walk around and listen to the people talk in the game, and they'll view every good or bad. Like you'll find out why the NCR are such assholes. Like. Or you'll find, because you'll think like NCR's the military, the army, the veterans, the Rangers and shit like that.
Yeah, but then like people on the streets
drunk, fucking alcoholic and drug abusers that are here, and they're kicking everybody out of their homes to use for quote unquote government purposes. Shit like that.
Yeah, I got you.
And then you already know why the Legion is bad, because they're just there to just take over. Like there's no fucking reason for them to be there other than to control the damn. Like they're just fucking there. And then there's Benny, like he's a selfish cunt. Yeah. I had that motherfucker last you across the first time. But
Damn.
And then I did like the independent Vegas thing, which everybody wants an independent New Vegas. Like they don't want the NCR to seize control of it, because whoever controls Hoover Dam controls the Strip, because that's where the electricity comes from for the most.
Yeah.
So it's, oh my god, there's just so much to get into.
Yeah,
I
and it's
barely
like
scratched the tip of the iceberg.
This is a good example of like the use of narrative villains, and like the use of narrative villains that aren't like because there's narrative villains that have like a backstory that's tragic, and that's the reason why they're evil. But there's also people that like, this is a good example of like villains that aren't necessarily villains. They're just people with tragic flaws. They're just people that are going for something either that's not morally correct, or their ideologies are skewed, or they're greedy, or whatever. And it's not necessarily, it's obvious in this case that they don't see themselves as being evil. They don't see themselves as doing wrong things.
Yeah, because that's what they're like surrounded by. It's the same deal with the Brotherhood of Steel. Like they don't think what they're doing is wrong, because they built an entire fucking military around this one ideal.
Yeah,
set of ideals.
And so one of the better things to do when it comes to a character is like making it so that like, yes, they might have this overall plan and they have a goal that they want to achieve, but why is that they have that goal? Is it because, oh, they killed my son, so I have to avenge him, and then you have to like wipe out something? But or you can have something like they're trying, or like what was one of the examples that I heard recently? It was like a doctor that's doing inhumane experiments to try to find a cure to save their kid or something like that. Like adding a design, or not like a design flaw, but like adding a flaw like that for any villainous character will like add like a whole new depth to that character. Turns them into like a believable human, and not like just some guy that's bad for the sake of being bad. It's like, if I had to choose between the two types of villains, because for anybody that doesn't know, there's two types of villains. There's a mechanics villain and a narrative villain. A mechanics villain is like your Bowsers, Ganons. It could be anything from like those type, from like
They're
Nintendo types,
they were built to be bad.
Well, it's not just that. It's also another good thing that another good example of a mechanics villain. I feel like it falls into that category, or just a really bad narrative villain. is the mercs from Titanfall 2, since I know that well enough. But they're bad for the sake of moving the player, like not emotionally, but like physically, like to get them to play the game. Like you can't sit still in Mario because like when you get to the Bowser boss fight, you can't sit still or else he's gonna hit you with a fireball and kill you. So he's bad and he attacks you for the sake of having you play the game. They're just bad for that reason. On the other hand, on the other side of that coin, a narrative villain has a backstory. It has the ability to immerse the player in the world more deeply than if you just had some guy that's bad because he's bad. Like there could be something in the world that affected this person that caused them to be your main antagonist. Like for instance, the reason why like I feel like Blisk has more depth than the rest of the mercenaries in Titanfall 2 just because like you can tell that he's all about the money and he's got there, you know that there's something wrong with him because he's all about just killing people. He just wants to kill people. And there's also the money part of it. He's greedy as fuck. But then all of the other mercs, there's something off about them, but there's not really a motive other than money and other than serving Blisk, which is a little strange. Like, it makes me feel like they're more of a...
It makes me wonder, like, how did Blisk get to be where he was? Or, like,
I feel
why,
like it's...
or, like, who's the main contractor of these mercenaries?
So
like,
the lineage down... Well, I say lineage, but the hierarchy is... It's the IMC... And within the IMC, there's the Marauder, or not Marauder. There's the Ares division, which is the militaristic division of IMC, and then inside the Ares division is its leader, General Martyr, and General Martyr contracts Blisk and his mercenaries to do all of his dirty work for him. Instead of wasting IMC resources, he hires mercenaries because they have the money to do so why not? And so I'm assuming Blisk is on top just because what his fucking catchphrase is like, you kill me, you're better. If I kill you, I'm better. Like he's obviously good at what he does. Otherwise, I don't think he'd be on top. And it's like that's probably why the other ones follow him, is either because he's pulled them from a shitty situation to use in his ranks, quote unquote, or they just looked up to him and was like, okay, I'm gonna hang with this guy because he's got the shit.
Didn't he have the opportunity to kill Jack Cooper?
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely.
But don't you think he'd rather have Jack Cooper as an ally?
That's exactly what he did, though. That's exactly what he did at the end of Titanfall, and if you guys haven't played it, I mean, it's been out for a while, so spoilers, I guess. At the end, did you play through the Titanfall campaign?
Who, me?
Yes.
Titanfall 2?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
You remember at the end? Times. You remember at the end where you pull open the arc injector chamber and it blasts you back and it like fries all your equipment for a second.
Yeah.
So BT has to like reboot. Well, when you're on your back in BT, he gets out of his Legion, jumps onto BT and drops an Apex card on the hull of BT, and he's basically telling you like, you didn't kill me today, but instead of killing me, you could join me and do what we do because you're really good. That's what he's basically saying.
You're really good at killing motherfuckers.
Yeah, well, I mean,
how about
you also
come kill some motherfuckers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean,
I don't know, but does that make you think, like, does Blisk just try to pay everybody off to be killers with him, because like he's afraid that they might be better than him? He'd rather be their ally. You know what I mean? Like, do you think he's scared enough of Jack Cooper that he'd rather just leave him alive and give him the opportunity instead of try to kill him, fail, and have Jack Cooper hunting for him? You know what I'm saying?
Well, I don't think it fits his personality. I don't feel like it fits his character bubble or character arc as it is.
Well, of course
Like I
he's
feel
not going
like
to make it
Blisk.
seem obvious, like, oh, I'm afraid of this person, so
Oh
I'd
no no
rather
no!
have
Of
them on
course
my side.
it's not gonna fit it. It's not gonna be obvious, obviously, but it's not gonna be obvious, obviously. But I don't think it fits him because the way he acts, around other like in dangerous scenarios, uh, and the way he acts in dangerous scenarios, like when BT tried to trick him to like to try to kill him so that that Jack Cooper can get the arc and get out of there or whatever. You know what I'm talking about? That last ditch effort before what is it? What's her name? Sloane like rips the arc out of him and then shoots him.
Yeah.
Like fucking Blisk, if you pay close enough attention, he's like as graceful as a fucking ballerina getting out of the way of that shit. Like the grunts get fucking murked, but Blisk like does like a full front flip, gets the fuck out of there. Like BT misses because Blisk was so like calm and collected, or at least calm and focused in that one moment where he could have fucking died. And then afterwards, he's like yelling and he's like, hey, get that fucking thing out of there before it goes off. And so he's always down to business. He's not fazed by anything. And plus, in the Titanfall universe, coming from like a mercenary, I mean, actually, now that I say that, in any universe where there's mercenaries, that you have to be tough as fucking nails to be in any scenario like that or any place like that. Any like community lifestyle that involves like mercenaries, people who are getting
Full of goddamn literal fucking killers.
Yeah, murderers and shit like that. People getting paid to kill people. So I don't think he's scared of Jack Cooper. He sees him as a great asset. I feel like he's like, if I had this guy on my team, and plus you just fucking wiped out all of his mercenaries. So I mean, he got a few open positions. And it's like, why wouldn't you want someone who just took out your entire team on your team? Now, of course, it doesn't work because Jack Cooper's a militia pilot and he's not about to go do that shit. He just went the entire fucking game fighting these guys. Why would he want to join them at the end? I mean, some people pick that path, but I sure in hell wouldn't. But like the reason why the way we got here to this conversation, the reason why I see like the other mercs, like Blisk's mercenaries, as more mechanics villains than they are narrative villains, because they don't have much backstory. There's not much told about them. They don't in the dialogue that they have in the game that you overhear with the microphone or the radio that you get from Kane at the beginning. They all sound unhinged. That's definitely duh. And they all sound like they have issues, but there's no explanation of what those issues are, what brought them to Blisk, anything like that. And it's the only time you actually interact with these characters is when you're fighting them in like a boss battle, in like a mini boss battle. Because technically those are mini bosses up to Blisk. Or no, technically no, they are bosses. What am I talking about? They're all bosses. And so, yeah, so that's the only interaction you get with them is when you fight them. And the definition of a mechanics villain is a villain that gets the player moving and playing the game. And so they don't have any narrative. That's the only place I can put them is in a mechanics in the mechanics column. They and I mean, I can't really see. That's the thing I was worried about, because like I'm trying to think of like narrative villains, like off the top of my head, but I don't have enough. I haven't played enough games that have like a narrative backstory to actually be able to say anything, because like I play mostly first-person shooters, and that's like there's no narrative. And very rarely is there a narrative blah blah blah. Ooh, actually, okay, there's going to be spoilers in this for Modern Warfare if anybody cares about that, or should I save it?
I don't know.
Like, do you want me to save it because you haven't played the campaign?
I haven't played it. I'd like to play it, but I mean, I don't really give a fuck. I guess. Well, how bad is it?
Well, it's a spoiler. It's a big spoiler for the game. What I'm about to say, but if you haven't played it and you're going to play it when you get the chance,
so I mean,
yeah, then in that case, just I'll keep to myself. But the villains in that game, it really you don't see it coming. And one of the things that does is it complements the type of game it is, or the type of story it is. Like in Warfare, shit happens out of nowhere, and stuff gets messy very quickly. Like the guy that ended up like coming out of nowhere and fucking up a lot of shit. I feel like it's a little rough, but I can understand his story arc. But it definitely, like throughout the story, even after you find out about about his deeds, and anybody who's played the Modern Warfare campaign and it's like gone through the entire story or entire campaign knows who I'm talking about. They know who I'm talking about. Throughout the entire story, it's like there's more surprise. It's not just like you get this one like slap in the face, like whoa, holy shit, I never would have seen that, and then that's just you. And then you play from that perspective the whole game. It changes like 2 or 3 times after that too. Like it keeps you on your toes because you don't know, at least story-wise, it keeps you on your toes because you still don't know who's right, who's wrong. Like it's sort of nowhere near on the same level, but it challenges like the right and the wrong, the revenge, the vengeance. Like, is this the right thing to do because of what happened in the past, or is it not worth it and it's more cost? It's costing more than it's worth, type of things. Which is, I feel like it's great villain design, at least. Like, the main villain in Call of Duty Modern Warfare is kind of He's just he's like a cookie cutter. He's a cookie cutter military villain, and he's boring. I don't care. He's a dumb villain, and I don't like him. But I feel like what's more interesting is the people. There's some people trying to get back at him, the main villain, and and it's when you hear the motives of those people that really questions your view on those people. Like it's I'm trying to like say this without, and I'm doing okay. I'm trying to say this without any spoilers. And that's pretty much the gist of it. It's like it's challenging like the way you view these people because of their actions in game. And now it's not like you're betrayed or anything like that. I will say that you're not betrayed by anybody, so to speak. But yeah, I don't want to say any more because it's gonna get into spoiler territory. I can't say anything more about it, or else it's gonna start to get to that point where it's like, wait a minute, you can't say that. They haven't played it.
You said F word.
Do not say F word. F word bad. Oh my god, I died a little bit. Well, okay. So, and here's a good wait, Sam, have you played Doom 2016?
Yeah.
Samuel Hayden, what type of villain would you say he is? If you'd even call him a villain in the first place.
I don't really know. I don't think he's the real villain.
Well, then who is?
What's?
And then I'm not saying like games have to have a villain. Not all games have to have a villain.
Who
but
is that bitch that opened the portal to hell?
Olivia Pierce, I don't know if I'd call her a villain. I'd
Why the
call
fuck
her
not?
more.
I call her a dumbass.
Yeah, she's a dumbass. But I wouldn't call her I guess, but it's more of, I guess, yeah, actually, I guess you could call her a narrative antagonist, a narrative villain, because she believes that like opening up hell on Mars would make things better, question mark, or that she just wants to serve the Dark Lord or whatever. I don't know. I didn't even think of Olivia Pierce because she just opened up the portal and got fucking eradicated immediately. So I mean,
yeah,
whatever.
But it's kind of like someone like taking their own life for a cause bigger than them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I guess she's more three-dimensional than anything. But I feel like Samuel Hayden is the main villain in that game. Like, well, okay. Spoiler warning for anybody who hasn't played Doom, but it's Doom 2016. It's 2019. You have 3 years. Doom Eternal's about to come out. Samuel Hayden betrays you at the end. Like, I mean, and it's not like, when I first played the game, I was a little surprised, but I wasn't completely surprised. I kind of saw it coming, because through the entire thing, he hated what you were doing. He was so angry that you were like destroying his life's work in front of him, because you're the fucking Doom guy. You're there to fucking kick demon ass. That's like your whole purpose. And you've got these, it's like, imagine you woke up from a nap after killing like thousands, hundreds of thousands of demons, and then these humans are, well, Samuel Hayden used to be a human. I don't know if he's still got human parts in him, but now these people are opening up portals again to take energy out of hell, not realizing how much of a danger that is. And Doom Guy's like, oh fuck, now I gotta go clean this shit up. Like, you just did all of that work to close shit up, and then they've opened it up again. Of course you're gonna be like, fuck this guy. I gotta undo all this. So you're always at odds with Samuel Hayden, but he wants you to get into hell and then get back out with that the key thing that you get, like, I think it's like near the end of the game. It's like this key that you use to transfer.
I don't remember the ending.
Well,
I don't remember playing the ending.
So what happens is you get this key that's able to bring you between worlds. It's sort of like a gate key, and it teleports you between hell and the hell and our world, and or hell in the mortal world. And
hell
when you,
well,
there's also like in the mortal world where Samuel Hayden is, he has these devices that act as like a portal stabilizer. So you'll come through the portal into this little chamber. But what he does is when you come back, he zaps you. And he has you in this like hold. Or no, it's in your Praetor suit. In your Praetor suit, he like starts to he's either electrocuting you, or he's doing something to you to subdue you. And he takes the key from you, and then he what is it? He clicks something and it turns into a fucking sword. Like that energy sword. And then Doom 2016 ends. Revealing that Samuel Hayden was the actual enemy the entire time. Like, he was just trying to get you. He was on your side until you got that key, and then all he needed to do was get you back to him so that he could have it, and he would have complete control over the traversal between the mortal realm and the demon realm, or the mortal realm and hell, basically. And I've got a sneaking suspicion that in Doom 26, or not Doom 2016, Doom Eternal, what'll happen is Samuel Hayden goes to Earth and opens up a portal, trying to do it there instead of on Mars because his whole operation's been fucking destroyed, and ends up, hell on Earth, and so Doom guy's got to go fucking clean that up now. That's my best guess. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Samuel Hayden, at least.
Well, considering it feels like you're trapped in hell from what I've seen.
What do you mean?
Like from what the gameplay looks like, it looks like you're basically just like trapped in hell now.
Oh, from Doom 20 or Doom Eternal?
Yeah.
Well, you traverse different realms because there's a whole sequence where, I mean, unless it was just trailer stuff, but there was gameplay of him on a space station. There's Doom guy was on a space station, and
I mean, you probably make it back.
Oh yeah.
Because you're Doom guy, but at the same time, I don't know. They might give him a badass ending.
Well, that's the thing though, is like, because in Doom 2016, you come back from hell. You're on Mars at the end of it. You're just getting like subdued by Samuel, and he steals the key from you. I don't remember what the key is actually called, but so I don't think you might go back to hell, definitely. But I don't think you're stuck there. Unless I mean, they could also just be like, well, he took the key, he sent you back. Like, I mean, that's a possibility, but I don't think that's where that's going to go. But we will not know until Doom Eternal comes out, and they delayed it, so we have to wait until next year, which is big sad. I think that's right. They delayed it to next year, right?
Yeah, it's like March, I think.
Ugh. I just want to play Doom Eternal, damn it. Let me play Doom Eternal. Yeah. Jesus. Let me see. So, see, now, what's a game off the top of your head that had a villain that you thought was garbage? Like, this guy just sucks.
What do you mean by garbage?
Like, it just felt like he shouldn't be there. Like, my end like point here is that, like, there's some games that use mechanics villains instead of narrative villains, which is completely devoid, like completely sucks all of the possibilities for like intricacies of the world out of playing against this antagonist.
Like, why are you playing against him kind of villain, or just like...
No, like, just like a bad for being bad, just a bad because he's bad, or like, or just has like a stupid backstory. Or not like a stupid backstory, but like a stupid motive.
I don't know, I can't really think of any.
Yeah,
probably
that's my...
because I steer clear of games like that.
Exactly, like, that's what I think my issue is right now. It's like, I don't play a lot of games... that like it if it doesn't look good, I'm not gonna play it. And there's usually Telltale.
Something about. I'm glad you said that. I at least know enough about the plot to where it's like I understand if it's gonna be like a bad villain or whatnot.
Yeah, well, like, okay, so I've heard
like
some.
The story doesn't look interesting.
I heard some shit about the villains of Borderlands 3. Like, because I know you've played that. I haven't played it.
About them?
Yeah, like, I heard that there was like, they went from like Handsome Jack to two crazy twins and like who or two
Yeah, so the Calypso twins, and I was gonna talk about them too, but they're like,
but they're just
I don't want to
insane
spoil
though,
much of that game
right?
in general. Yeah, well,
Yeah,
kind
so
of.
it's like
Their father was like the legendary Vault Hunter or whatever, and so they kind of knew a lot about that growing up, and so they were interested in doing it, and they decided in order to do it, they needed to stream. Yes, stream and gain a following through their streams, and you basically turn that following into a cult.
what the fuck?
Yeah, the Children of the Vault. So you had the COV, the Children of the Vault, and they were just like one of the factions, I guess, helping them, trying to stop you get to the vaults and whatnot.
Huh.
Because
That's
the Vault
really
Hunters
weird.
aren't like or protagonists themselves. They're like greedy and only in it for the loot and the money anyway.
Yeah. That's Yeah, I feel like I'm a bad person to ask about like narrative video game villains because I steer clear of a lot of stuff like that. Now, we'll get into something I do know. Ooh, excuse me. Well, actually, before I get into that, like, what do you think that some villains belong in some genres? Like, there's certain genres that need a certain type of villain. You get what I'm saying?
No, I don't.
Okay, so like say like do you think a narrative villain could fit in something like let's see, like a bullet hell? Like do you think a narrative villain, you could put a narrative villain in a bullet hell?
Yeah, if it's like a huge amount of people you're having to take out.
Wait, hold on. Sorry. You have a huge amount of people what?
Like a huge amount of people you have to take out.
Well, I'm not understanding what you're saying. Like, what do you mean you have a huge amount of people you have to take out?
So like somebody's got to be in charge of them, right?
Yeah.
So like, what's the reason? How come so many people find them like able to follow? You know what I mean? Like, what makes them so inspiring?
Yeah, but do you think if you're balancing that with gameplay, how if you're balancing that with gameplay, like how are you going to do that in a bullet hell without making it not fun? Like without a bunch of reading of like dialogue boxes and shit.
I mean, it can just be implied throughout the like, I don't understand what you mean.
Like, okay, so what I'm trying to say is like in a like for instance, let's use the example I've been going with. In a bullet hell, the whole point of it is like you're one thing and you're like running around shooting shit. Usually that's usually what the gist of it is. You go around, you shoot shit, you get power ups so you can shoot shit faster. But to put like a narrative villain in a bullet hell would mean you'd have to be able to explore. You'd have to be able to find things for yourself. At least in my eyes, a good narrative villain in any game is someone that has an effect or has been affected by something in the world that you can also find. It's something that not just anyone, or it's not just exclusive to them. It's something you can sympathize with. Like if you can't understand where a villain is coming from, you're a lot less it's less likely that you're going to find them to be a believable character. They're going to seem more 2D if you can't understand where they're coming from. And I don't see how you could do that in a bullet hell unless it wasn't like unless it was one that has exploration. Any one of the ones that doesn't have exploration would either have to have a lot of dialogue, which kind of sucks if you have to read through it all, or there would have to be like audio lines. But even that, you don't want to listen to somebody talk for however long. And especially if it's during the game, that's distracting. You're not going to be worried about what the fuck they're saying. You're going to be worried about not dying. But my question before was like in that same like area or question, what other types of games do you think or what other types of games have a certain type of villain that they need? Like they can't have this type of villain, so they need this one. Like a first-person shooter, especially if you're talking about like campaigns, I feel like they need more of a narrative villain than they do a mechanics villain. Because yes, a mechanics villain gets the game going, but it doesn't give the player what they need in the form of like a story, something to entertain their mind instead of just mindlessly shooting a bunch of minions and stuff. So like you have any thought on that? Because I mean,
well, I think it's what you were asking earlier, like how to include a good villain in that type of a game. There's no real way to do it because that's like its own genre, I guess.
yeah, or it has its own sort of like, what do you call it? Its own sort of, I want to say prerequisites, but it's built in a certain way that just doesn't allow it. And you'd have to change the game functionality or the game's functionality to make it more narrative villain friendly. That's a weird thing to say. Narrative villain friendly.
Yeah.
I don't know, like that's like imagine trying to put a narrative villain in something like Tetris. Could you imagine that?
Okay, no, you couldn't do something like that.
Exactly. That's damn near impossible.
Well, I mean,
like,
you could, and then like, oh, do this level to get this enemy or whatever, something
I
like that.
remember
Because even those match 3 games will like throw a villain in there and be like, okay, well, you have an AI to play against.
yeah, and it's like I feel like, well, like if you ever played Tetris Worlds, they actually tried to put like a setting for all the Tetris games, which was really really weird. It was for the GameCube. It was really fucking weird. What do you hold on? Let me just, in this what the fuck am I trying to say? Words, please. I hereby summon words so that I can fucking use them. In the same sort of like vein of villains in general, what's some movie villains? Because I mean, gaming in like the gaming aspect, that's a very it's very different when you try to introduce a villain in a game versus when you try to introduce a villain in like a movie or a TV show. So like, what would you say?
Well, like,
let's start with like
TV
what your
shows like automatically have plot.
well, oh yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. It's like I feel like, do you think it's harder to make a good video game villain than it is, or is it harder to make a good like movie villain?
I don't know, because anything you can put into a movie and sound perfect, but it's harder to like make it sound perfect through a game because you're having to like do it yourself to get there.
Whoa,
Like,
hold on. Say that first part again.
So in a movie,
Yes.
it's like they're there, like this is how it is no matter what. You can't change. But in a game, you have to take into account what the players are going to do. So you have to build it around what you think the players are going to do and how you think they're going to react to this. You can make a movie about like ending slavery. And then you can make a game about ending slavery, and they can be 2 totally different games.
Or two different things in general.
Yeah, or like 2.
Well, okay, so
things.
I see what you're saying.
You can choose not to do it in the game, like give the player options.
Okay, well, yeah, I could. God damn it, I could see where you're going, but I think you're thinking about it You're thinking about it differently than I'm thinking about it. When I think about how you make a villain in a movie and how you make a villain in a video game, if I was going to compare video game villains with movie villains, I would think of it more like, you know how like Tomb Raider, like the Tomb Raider games, you have one goal. The game is always going to have this set ending, and you're always going to play through it. Or like the Uncharted games. It's like a movie that you play through basically. Or like
Yeah,
any,
but like the
or like
movie's
any
already
like,
set in place.
or like but like there's like Castlevania games. There's one goal that you have. You go to kill Dracula or whatever the end monster is. Like Shovel Knight. Actually, I'm not going to say anything about Shovel Knight because I don't know if you have different options in that game. I feel like you do. Because these days they add more options for people to choose from. That's not all just like, you go here, you do this, you kill this guy. Because that's how you're supposed to play the game. But in movies, yeah, technically it's like you can't, once you make a movie, you can't change it. But also in the same fact, like if you make a game, you can't change it. If you make a game that's meant to be like a narrative game, you're supposed to play through it, experience a story, and you don't have a choice whether to do or to not to do. So like, for instance, like Shadow of the Colossus, you don't have a choice as far as I know, you don't have a choice whether to fight them or not. You just have to fight them. To beat the game, you have to fight them. So, in the same vein, a movie villain I would say it's harder to make a movie villain than it is a game villain. They're both difficult, don't get me wrong, but I feel like it's harder in a movie because in a game, and this is all just, me like trying to weigh everything out in my head. Like in a game, like when you're playing a game, yes, there's the storyline that you can focus on, but you could easily play that game without paying attention to anything going on in the story. Some games, or most games I should say, you could play through the entire game and not care about anything that's happening story-wise and just play it for the mechanics, and you'd have a great time. So that also means that if you are paying attention to the story, you're also playing a game and reading a story at the same time, or experiencing a story at the same time. So you're focused on both things. You have two things to focus on. That's what I'm trying to say. In a movie, you're sitting in a theater or on the couch watching it. The only thing that you're paying attention to is how that story is playing out. There's nothing else you have to focus on. There's no skill involved. All you have to do is just watch the movie, which means you're able to pick up on some minor things that you might have missed while playing like a narrative game. A narrative game, you might be under gun, like in Tomb Raider. There were dialogues that I completely fucking missed because I was like getting shot at. And I was like, I can't. What the fuck do I do? I forgot the button.
Good example of that too, because like you're too focused on the literal cult going on around you that you don't understand that Russia's dropping bombs on the U.S. through the game.
Oh yeah. See, like it's like that. It's like you miss little key points. But if you were watching a movie, your focus wouldn't be parted. You wouldn't be worried about two things at once. All you're doing is just watching the movie, and it's usually. I was gonna say it's usually for enjoyment, but you play games for the same reason. But like, it's usually for casual enjoyment. You're just playing the game, or you're just watching a movie, to do nothing, just to like watch something, to experience a story, quote unquote. Because some movies, fucking Hobbs and Shaw. Like some things don't have a fucking storyline. They're just shit to be shit. Like. But there's stuff that does have storyline, like off the top of my head, Ex Machina. That was a fucking trip, dude. Oh my god. And it's like I can guarantee you with stuff like that, they had to be like, or I'm not even gonna like they might have been, or they might have whatever. Like they always have to be meticulous in movies about how they make their characters sound, how their lines are written, all of the setting stuff, how the characters act, all that stuff, because there could be very minute things that completely go against how their character is structured. So like a villain could be okay, so it's like you know how if somebody just tells you, like if there's just some like villainy monologue, it's going to be like, okay, this guy's bad and these are his goals. But he hasn't done anything. Like you haven't seen him do anything to complete these goals. So is this really who he is? Like he's still too 2D, if you understand what I'm saying. So you have to have that person doing stuff. You have to have something happening to make it. It's like show don't tell. You know, don't give me a monologue. Do stuff, like have your actions reflect your goals. Have it look like what you're doing like exemplifies or pushes the narrative that you've set out before yourself. And to do that in a movie, you have to make sure all of those things, all of the characters' actions throughout the movie correspond with their ideals, their motives, and their goals. And through a video game, like, that's not that hard to do, because I feel like it's not that hard to do. Number one, because if there's little things, you can sort of brush them off, because a gameplay scenario is a lot more engaging than a movie. So you don't have to use this, I would say, like, I'm saying this, but I don't mean it like literally. You don't have to use many fancy words and flashy things like you would in a movie to get it across in a video game, because the player feels like they're there in that situation. So I feel like in a movie, I'm basically repeating myself at this point. Like a game, you can make your character, you can make the player experience whatever motives and goals the villain has through the gameplay. Like you can have levels based on unhinging the villain's plan, while simultaneously finding things in those levels that explain more about the villain that you're fighting against. Like it could be either like character dialogue that you're overhearing from another room, or a letter that was supposed to be sent that didn't get sent, and so now you see what the actual master plan is, or you see a conflict that's going on in the background for that villain. But like a movie, you have to do all that, but make sure it corresponds perfectly. You have to make sure everything, and you also have to worry about like you have to do all of that in a certain amount of time, because like you can't have like 4-hour movies, like unless you're fucking Avengers Endgame, because everybody was like, I don't care if that movie's 5 hours long, I'll still watch it. So I mean, I don't know. I don't know why I went so long trying to explain that, but that's my thought process on that. Jesus, I gotta stop rambling like that. Jesus. I need to like have a soundboard where like I have a train, like the train whistle sound effect, so I can be like, choo choo, we're going on a tangent train, and this fucking thing ain't stopping until we're out of fuel, because that seems to be like how I like to roll. I don't know why. Yeah. Jesus, I burnt out. But no, wait, oh shit, did you see Joker?
No, not yet.
Whee! Damn it. See, that's a cool one, because like you see it from his perspective. Like that whole movie, it's like Joker's not the antagonist, which is crazy.
No, because the movie's from his point of view.
Exactly. I mean, that'll do it,
Okay.
but also, let me see, hold on.
Well, when you make a movie like that and you're allowing the person watching it to like sympathize with whoever it is, you can put Hitler in the movie and people can still be like, oh, yeah, now I see why he did it.
I don't know about that.
Okay, maybe
That's
not that extreme.
yeah,
but
maybe
you know what I mean.
maybe not Hitler, but
Maybe not Hitler, but Stalin.
okay. You know what? But who's this? Cat just posted this guy
Oh, that's the
Didact.
Didact from Halo.
Didact. That's what it is. I don't know anything about that. Like,
Didact bad.
wow, man. Is there anything more about Didact bad than other than just Didact bad?
Not necessarily.
Why do you say that?
Well, it's. Hang on, I need to brush up, I guess, because I can't remember much about the Didact other than he bad.
He bad.
He
Didact
bad.
bad. Got you in the pipes 5x5.
Didact bad.
Didact bad. God, that
I
was.
can't remember if he was like. I can't remember who the heck Didact was.
They did a really good job of making fucking Viper an awesome character. Like he was just a fucking badass to fight. Stone cold from the air. Also, I'm biased because he was using my favorite Titan. So I mean, but like the lines that he had were like those were like the best. They're the best lines in that whole game. Ugh.
I'm just reading up on who he is.
Yeah, I'm seeing. I saw
He's
some.
like the antagonist of Halo 4. I just can't remember too much about him.
Yeah, I saw. I see the. I saw the thing that Kat posted. It's a quote from introductory speech to John 117 upon waking from his cryptum. On blank. Bing bong, ding dong. On
Crimes,
Requiem.
terrorism, treachery, genocide, attempted mass corruption.
Oh, damn. Because he looked like an ugly man.
Imprisonment, retrieve the composer and use it to corrupt all of humanity on Earth.
It's like the cat's like. Cat said he was one of the villains I looked at and thought, oh, he kind of has a point.
Wait, who's a Didact?
Yeah, the Didact.
He doesn't have a point.
He's
like legit evil.
The quote is, I can read it out real quick. It's, so fades the great harvest of my betrayal. Even these beasts recognized what you were oblivious to, human. Your nobility has blinded you as ever. The librarian left little to chance. Stop, didn't she? Turning my own guardians, my own world against me. But what hubris to believe she could protect her pets from me forever. If you haven't mastered even these primitives, then man has not attained the mantle. Your ascendance may yet be prevented. Time was your ally, human, but now it has abandoned you. The Forerunners have returned. This tomb is now yours. Okay. Kat, you were going to say something, though. I heard the mic. The unmuting of the mic.
Who is Mike?
Damn, she dead. Mike dead. But hold on. Why do you say he doesn't? Why do you say he doesn't have a point, though?
He doesn't what?
Why do you say he doesn't have a point, though?
He's evil.
But like, what is his goals? Like, what is he trying to do?
I just told you, retrieve the composer and use it to corrupt all humanity on Earth. He's trying to destroy humanity because he thinks they're still primitive to him. Like, you know.
But it isn't because he was wronged before. Like, they didn't get back. Like, yeah, yes, Kat, you can talk. Jesus, what? Yes, tell us what you were gonna say before you like disappeared once more.
Okay, so I played Halo 4 quite a bit, and the Didact has been one of my favorite villains, besides the little cunt known as 343 Guilty Spark. And I think he has a point because of how the librarian describes his past. He was incredibly wronged.
Like he was
I
just he
can't
was like
Yeah, but how
fucked
does
believe
that have
over.
anything to do with him? Like,
he was screwed over. It's not his fault that he's so bad, in my opinion.
Well, okay, then how was he fucked over though? Like who fucked him
Um,
over?
if I remember correctly, when they were trying to prolong their species and prevent themselves from being uh, wiped out,
Uh huh.
they converted their minds into technology to prolong themselves. But
hence the Prometheans.
yeah, it didn't work out so well.
Okay.
And if I remember correctly, the Didact is one of the ones that came back out of that all messed up. His mind
Okay.
isn't right, and he viewed mankind in a different light.
Okay, but then why is mankind at fault is what I'm wondering. Cuz if his goal, cuz I'm trying to figure out which one of you to side with, because like Cat says he has a
Okay,
point. Solemn says Didact bad, but what I'm seeing is like from what Cat you're explaining is, and this is coming from someone who has no idea what the fuck they're talking about. I have not played Halo 4. Um, like from what I'm hearing is that his race was trying to,
his race was the Forerunners,
yeah,
who were opposed to the creation of the Halo rings. He saw them as a sin above everything else. They stood against the fabric of the mantle, and the mantle was that the Forerunners' belief, which all life is equally precious, and that is, if possible, that it must be preserved above everything else. So they're kind of like the Mr. International, like Mr. Worldwide Peace kind of people.
wait, and so hold on,
Might it also be said that he was the lover of the librarian before everything went bad?
Yeah, so the Forerunners were looked at they were looked at as like a last resort because the Human Covenant War and all that was going on. They were like totally against it. So they were like those college kid protesters that were just like, you need to quit. All life is precious. All lives matter. And they were kind of looked down on for that.
wait
So they were like,
so the Forerunners were like a part of the mantle, or I'm confused on
the
that.
Forerunners founded the mantle, and the mantle
Okay, the
is
founded
the
the
Forerunners'
mantle.
belief.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
the mantle is like a code to them that all life is precious.
Okay, so hold on. If I'm gonna let me just reiterate, or just try to like like say what I'm understanding right now.
Halo
Is
lore is
this
really
guy
deep, and you'll never understand it all.
so Forerunners founded the mantle, which the mantle says that all life is precious and there's like a balance, I'm assuming, or they have to try to preserve it.
If
Right?
possible, everything
If
should be
possible.
preserved.
So if possible, everything should be preserved.
Yep.
So what about then what I'm not understanding is what about the rings are a sin, because that's technically preserving life, is it not?
Hold on a minute. I gotta kind of look
Don't
into
the
this.
rings wipe out
Yeah,
entire
like if
species?
you,
That was the whole thing with the
so
Arbiter.
the entire thing with the Arbiter's not really the bad guy. The Arbiter was like Muhammad of his people.
The Arbiter
and
was amazing.
Yeah, the Arbiter's not a bad guy, and he actually, so the elites in the Covenant, like, so the Covenant aren't just the species, okay? So like you have all these different species, and the Covenant is basically just aliens coming together for, like their own religious causes. They're kind of like the radical Islamic terrorists of space.
Okay.
So they believe that, like they're all dying for a greater cause or whatever, and it's supposed to be religious or whatnot. So the Halo rings can basically, like, can't they be used as some sort of weapon or something to wipe out humanity or something like
Yes,
that?
it's
So
their weapon.
once you get to them and like activate them all, which is like the goal of the game, the Master Chief and like the UNSC are trying to get to them because the UNSC is like the quote unquote the Peace Corps of they're like
the Space Force, basically. Try and, like, take it for good. If it has to be
Yeah.
used, use it against the bad guys. So,
Yeah.
and the Covenant's just like, well, everything that isn't believing that we are is wrong. So that's what they would use
Yeah.
it for. But the Forerunners were like, this weapon shouldn't have been built to begin with. And I understand what Kat means when she says that they kind of have a point, and that the Didact kind of had a point in all of that. But
Okay.
it's like, because the Forerunners, they built these other things too. They're called the Guardians. I want to say I can't remember how many there were, but there was a ton of them. And it was like, there were these huge, like one could wipe out an entire solar system or something like that. Or these huge, I don't want to call them creatures, but robot alien things.
They were highly destructive. They're weapons of mass destruction,
Yeah,
basically.
you'll see them in Halo 5, Guardians, like the name of the game.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and Cortana calls a bunch of them to, what's that? I can't remember the name of them.
Okay, so I didn't previously know that the rings were also a weapon. I thought they were just a habitable space.
No, they weren't just planets. They were,
They big bads.
yeah, the big bad.
Okay, so
I mean, they could
now,
be
well,
colonized,
okay,
but once you, like, turn them in a certain direction, they faced, like, they're called the Halo Array when you put them all together, because there's, like, a bunch of different rings.
uh-huh,
So once you line them all up a certain way, they can then be used as a weapon.
okay,
And you can point that weapon in any direction in the galaxy you wanted to.
gotcha.
And that's what made them
Okay.
so bad. So, and then, like, the Prometheans as, like, or not the Prometheans, the Forerunners were just like, okay, well, this isn't good. Like, this thing shouldn't have been built.
Okay, so
anyone
yeah,
would
okay.
be fighting over it.
So I get it. So the Covenant,
Yeah,
the Covenant is
Islam.
is against the Covenant is against the rings. The protagonist or the player characters are or the player character and the people that they play with are trying to use the rings, and then the Didact or the Forerunners or whatever are trying to destroy these rings as well, so that they're not used to destroy life in general. Is what I'm understanding.
I mean, they were already built, so, like, the Covenant are the ones trying to use them for bad purposes.
Okay,
You
so
you're
the
trying to
Covenant.
take
The
them and control them as, like, leverage, like military leverage. And
Gotcha.
So,
Okay.
And so the Covenant can't use them for evil, and the Forerunners are trying to kill both of these guys off, and so, like,
I'm assuming the
Didact, as, like, leader of the Forerunners, is just like, okay, you guys need to keep your grubby mitts off of this thing and not use it. They have no plans to use the Halo Array for any purpose, but they're like, now that they know that the human race is trying to, like, control them so the Covenant can't get their hands on them, makes them think, like, well, why should the humans have them? Like, so he's trying, like, that's where the Didact comes in, and it's just like, yeah, screw humans. I hate humans.
Okay, if I'm thinking about how the Didact as and this is coming from, like I said, someone who hasn't played it, who doesn't know anything about this, is just learning all this now. If the Forerunners are, well, they're not necessarily trying to destroy. Everyone's trying to use it, from what I'm understanding. They're trying to, or they're not. Nobody's trying to destroy it, is what I mean. Nobody's trying to destroy the rings. They're just trying to either keep it out of the hands of somebody else or use it for their own doing, or leverage, like you said. And so I can see where they're coming from. Like, the Covenant's pretty 2D. That's pretty, like, bleh, whatever. Okay, fuck it. Yeah, you're terrorists. I get it. Or actually, yeah, no, that's actually pretty accurate. But then, like, there's gotta be some reason. I mean, maybe there's something revealed in dialogue and stuff, but there's gotta be some reason why he suddenly hates humans. Instead of like hating both Covenant and human. Like, what is there any point in the story where he's, like, obliterating Covenant fleets while also going after humans? Like,
yeah, in Halo 4, while you're playing on Requiem trying to stop the Didact, his Prometheans are fighting both the Covenant and you.
Okay. Okay, so they're getting attacked from both sides. Okay.
Well, kind of
and
everyone is if you think about it.
Yeah,
because,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's kind
no,
of a
it's like
free
a
for all for the
5,
Halo.
yeah, throughout Halo 4 and 5, you're really fighting both as Master Chief or as the UNSC.
yeah. Okay,
But then you
I get
realize
it.
too.
Can I also read this real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
The Didact was later captured and treacherously abandoned by the Master Builder in a flood-infested system, where he encountered the Grave Mine, the Flood's central intelligence. Though he survived, the Didact's sanity was severely shaken by this encounter, which he later described as more of a malediction than a conversion, or conversation. The Didact was subsequently returned to Yucamane, where his privileges were restored, though command of the Forerunner military remained within the second Didact. Failing to decipher flood immunity via other means, including an experimental procedure which left him disfigured, he acquired a composer, a machine once designed to rid Forerunners of flood infection via converting their essence to digital form,
So the
but
Flood or
abandoned
the
long
Druid?
since due to several functional defects. The Didact first used the composer on his loyal Prometheans who willingly submitted to the process, but later used it forcibly on a large population of humans, blaming their species for the war.
Okay, so
So
since
these
humans wanted to
strange-
use it for military leverage, he got upset because he's like, now that you went off to try to use these things, now everybody's after it, and so now there's
They were
mass
built to
destruction
be
everywhere.
used. They were built to be used. So, like, okay, the Flood is another, I guess, faction you can say. So
More like a
the
hive mind.
Flood, the Flood are these like parasitic, like zombie things.
Yeah,
and
yeah, I
think
know
I've
what the Flood are. Yeah,
So they're trying to think like there's no real cure for these guys. We need to like systematically exterminate them.
yeah.
You know, this Halo array installation 0 is like the way to do it. And
Oh,
but that
so
was
that's
only
what-
the last resort. So installation 0
Okay.
and the 7, there was originally like 12 Halo rings, but there's only 7 left. Because some did get destroyed, but like the that was built as like a place of study, so they could kind of like hang back and watch the Flood.
Uh-huh.
So, and then, you know, it was designed to also kind of be a weapon in case they wanted to like eradicate them completely, but they wanted to like figure out, you know, what their deal was, because like they showed sentience too, like they're an intelligent.
The Flood
like,
is
maybe-
terrifying.
Yeah, they are terrifying, especially when you have like Gravemind, who's like, I guess you can consider part AI maybe and part, you know, hive mind. I don't really know. It's really weird lore.
So okay,
He
He
so
also
if I'm gonna
like absorbs the
understand,
intelligence of things. It's weird.
so if I'm gonna understand how this like, okay, so the rings were made to study and or destroy the Flood, and so now they're being used as like a chess piece between these three factions that all have different motives, like throughout the whole thing.
Really, two factions: the humans, the UNSC, and the Covenant.
Okay,
so
so
the Flood have no real interest in this thing. They don't really give a crap. They're kind of just here because they're here.
oh no, when I said like the three ones,
And
I didn't
then
mean
the
like,
third one would be the Forerunners.
yeah, I
And
meant like the
they're
Forerunners,
like-
the Covenant, and the humans. That's what I meant.
Yeah, so the Forerunners aren't even really trying to use it for anything. They're just trying to keep everyone away from it.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I was understanding before. Was like they just don't want anybody near it because it's like weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah, it's like a big bad.
Yeah, okay. I think I've got it. And if I gotta side with one of you when it comes to like him having a point, I gotta say, I think he does have a point when it comes into it. Like,
What do you
cause
mean by have a point?
okay,
He does
if I'm
and doesn't.
because if I'm understanding that humans got to the rings to use as like leverage, like a militaristic leverage, then technically they did start this whole conflict. They did like exacerbate the conflict. Now, of course, the Forerunners were trying to keep them from it, just in general. But if humans got to it first, that technically they did exacerbate the process. They did make it worse. They egged on the Covenant, which made everything more.
The Covenant went for them first.
Oh, so the Covenant then? Okay, yeah, then it doesn't make sense why he's pissed off at humans. It doesn't make sense.
He's mad at the humans because the humans are trying to stop. Okay, so it's a cluster. So
It is a cluster, but it's like what I'm saying. If I'm gonna
Covenant tries to go for this weapon. Okay, humans are like, no, don't do that, and they smack their hand, right? And they're like, it's mine. Okay, they're like the older brother that steps in and is just like, no, this is mine. Just slap him on the wrist, like, hey, stay away from this. This is bad. This is a gun. This is a big space gun. So after that happens, the Forerunners are just like, yo, quit. You don't need to take that from... The Forerunners are like the mom of the universe, and they're like, you don't take that from him. None of you should have this. This is a gun.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you've got the Flood, which are like the dog in the backyard that the gun is being pointed at. He's like, he has no idea about it, but it's just there.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a bad way of putting it.
But okay, I understand. Then, and in that case, then it's more of an effect of him being ill-minded and
like he doesn't
needing
understand the whole thing. He's just like, they see a weapon, they want the weapon, but that's not the whole story.
So yeah, that's what
No, we don't.
Yeah, that's what it's looking like. So I guess, and I'm changing my answer that he barely has a point. Like, he has a very misinformed point.
Like the human shouldn't have access to
his
it. His
brain is messed up, which is why he feels this way. So
I
feel like he's justified in his actions, but it's not right.
Well, I don't even think he's justified. He would be justified.
He's justified in his own mind.
He would be justified if he was going after the Covenant, because they were the first people to go after.
He's still going after the Covenant. He's still killing them.
But he's also killing the humans too that are trying to like.
Yeah, but I mean.
But there's something more to it too, because there's Cortana that's like, it's supposed to be Master Chief's AI. But she's kind of gone rogue in her own way, and she's had developed these relationships with the Forerunners. So he's not like, the first encounter that you have with the Didact as Chief in Halo 4 is like, he doesn't kill you. He has every opportunity to. He has every opportunity to kill all of... Yeah, he kind of just like uses the Force to pick you up, and he's like, silly human, you don't understand any of this. Which you really don't, because there's like so much more to it than they allude to in the games. He had the opportunity to kill Master Chief, the entirety of Blue Team, the entirety of Fire Team Osiris. Like, he's got all this opportunity to just wipe out everyone, and doesn't. Neither him or Warden Eternal in Halo 5.
My knowledge of the Halo lore ends after Halo 4, because I haven't watched anything or played anything after it. The last thing I remember is that Chief wasn't considered entirely human anymore, thanks to the librarian.
There's a lot of lore. A lot of lore. 10,000 pages alone on the wiki, but you know.
Jeez Louise. Okay, well,
because
before we get sucked into that, what were you going to say, Kat?
I remember in Halo 4 that the librarian's like, in order for you to fight the Didact, you need to change. And so you go through a change, and the Didact no longer can, like...
Force hold you?
Like, mind force, yeah.
Force choke you?
Like,
you can't force choke anymore.
The librarian changed you, you bitch.
Got changed, but you're still able to fight off Warden Eternal. He was like an AI mind, but he's got a million bodies, so like no matter how many times you kill him, he's gonna keep coming back. Yeah.
Okay, I'm fucking axing it. Because if I don't, you guys are gonna be spewing Halo shit at me for like the rest of the fucking night. We've got an after party. We got an after party to get to. Thanks for everybody that joined us tonight. If you're on YouTube, subscribe. If you're listening on Anchor, favorite us. If you're here on Twitch, follow us. Big changes are happening soon. I'm about to get to that. But down below, you can find all the links to all of our stuff, including our Twitter. Go follow us there. Solemn posts fucking ridiculous shit all the time. And retweets just as ridiculous shit. And there's a suggestion box down below, as well as our Discord. Join our Discord. It's full of fantastic people that will welcome you with hugs and joy. I'm making sure I'm not missing anything in the thing. Okay. afterwards, we have our Accidents After Hours. That's going to be happening not even a couple minutes after this ends. So stay tuned for that. But also, I'd like to get into just a reiteration because this is the last show. I repeat, the last show before we start recording episodes. The difference is they will not. Actually, now that I think about it, for the start, they will only be on YouTube and Anchor. YouTube for the visual, for the actual videos, and then Anchor for the what do you call it? The audio version that you can like listen to on your mobile device. Get the Anchor.
Everything except Twitch.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking about it because I know Twitch has you have the ability to upload videos on Twitch. So I'm gonna look into that. And if that's a thing, we'll notify you guys on Twitter. That's why you should follow us. And definitely think about getting the Anchor app on your phone. It is super handy, and Anchor has been a fantastic thing for us because we are also. Oh my goodness, I should probably say something about that. You need to go to our Anchor, what do you call it? Site. You need to click on the link below. But the reason why I say that is because we are on more sites than just Anchor, and Anchor has all the links to those sites. So if you have accounts on these sites, such as Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Google Podcasts, Overcast, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Spotify, all of those, if you have an account that you'd rather listen to us there, you can. All you have to do is click the link on our Anchor page. So definitely check us out. If you could share all of our stuff, like and subscribe on all of the things is basically what I'm saying. Do all of the things, and we will see you guys next time. Yeah. Bye bye.